Proverbs 10. So we are entering what I would describe as the, second section of the book of Proverbs. We have this starting line in 10:1 of the Proverbs of Solomon, and then it just goes. And it goes for like the next 14 chapters. And it's not till you get to chapter 25 that it'll shift with a different intro. It says, "These are the Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied out." And so that would be significantly later in time from when Solomon wrote them, that Hezekiah's workmen are going to be finding them and copying them. And so that starts in chapter 25. So that being said, the vast majority of these 14, 15 chapters is going to be these general statements of truth, and most often they're expressed in the form of a couplet. Generally, one is a positive expression associated with wisdom, and then generally you get the inverse as well, associated with foolishness, or the contrast of righteousness and the wicked. And so some of it are attributes, some of it are effects, some of it are patterns of things that you may see, impacts on others. And if you're just reading straight through, it can be easy to kind of lose track of how to store all these. I mean, we read them, you're like, okay, I kind of get them on an individual basis, but then as you get more and more, how do you think about it in terms of long-term storage? That's my dynamic. So hopefully I've got the page I printed out the other day. I'm out of copies. I can print another later. Oh, got an extra. Good.
Yeah, ours are the house.
Okay.
Yeah, ours are the house.
All right.
So you just said it.
So I will post a PDF of this on the sermon audio account of this, and also take a picture and put it on the comments for Facebook. But the text from Proverbs 10 should be entirely contained on these 2 pages. My goal was not to give any commentary or delete anything. So if anything was left out, it was inadvertent and just a mistake. But the idea was to think in terms of, all right, how do I organize this? And what I came up with, and I think that this pattern may be useful, even though I won't do pictures going forward, was thinking in terms of, all right, big categories that these individual expressions or couplets fall into. So if you're looking at the little smiling fella, that's your righteous man, just man. If you look to the very top, you see his folks are there waving at him. They're happy, right? And so on that, I would label this of the impact on others or impact on family. And so here you've got the wise man. Well, a wise son maketh a glad father. If you were to flip it over, you'll see the inverse of the foolish son. You got a mom there, and she's full of tears. Right? A foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. So we have an impact on our parents, and this kind of category will show up periodically through this. And so as you're going through the next 14, 15 chapters, these categories may be useful as you're taking notes of, okay, well, think about impact on others. Well, what are some of the others? If you notice the arrow to the mouth, there are a lot in that box. There's a big old box, right? A lot of the attributes of the wise or the foolish show up in your face and what comes out of it. So I've got context of the mouth, also the heart, and then over on the left-hand side, I've got what I've described as the labor of your hands. So generally, labor, and there's some of these that will fit in multiple. The second one there from your parents, he that gathereth in summer is a wise son. Right? Well, you could put that under labor, but the truth that was pointed out there was the impact upon the parents of being a wise son versus the one who is sleeping in harvest, a son that causes shame. So, impact on family, the head, the mouth, the heart, labor of your hands. Then we've got a line towards the feet. So I describe that as either feet or your pathways. And then underneath, I just had this general box, and I would just put that as end result. What's the outcome? What's the long term? And so this was just kind of a broad category. And then in this particular passage, there was one other thing that dealt with you after death, of your memory. What was your reputation? So that's why I got the little tombstone there on one. And the memory of the just is blessed, whereas the name of the wicked shall rot. So I'm going to go in order through the text. These are obviously in a very different order. And so my hope is that you'll read through it, think about it, and as you go forward in the next chapters, you'll kind of think in those terms, because I would wager that this list about our mouth, by the time we're through 15 chapters, is going to be really long. That's probably the reason James had so much to say about the tongue and the controlling of it. All right, so that was my general thought, was trying to think of a way that we could organize this so we can think about it down the road. But that's really more of an independent study tool. It would be hard, I think, to go through those in that order, maybe. But what I would rather do is just go through the chapter directly. Anybody have any questions on the organizational tool? Does it make sense? I think it will be helpful. Maybe we'll see. All right, so Proverbs 10, verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon. All right. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. All right, so you've got this contrasting picture. The wise son, the foolish son, both have an impact on their parents. One makes the father glad, the other makes your other parent with heaviness. What's a synonym for heaviness? Sorrowful, yeah. Grief. Right. As a parent watching your adult child make foolish decisions, it's hard. It is a sorrow. All right. So, again, in our categories, I was thinking about this is all right. We're not islands unto ourselves. We affect others in our decisions and our conduct. Okay. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing. All right. So that statement, what does that mean? What would you describe as treasures of wickedness?
The things that wicked love or pursue
or probably
wrongfully made money.
Probably ill-gotten gains is probably the core of what's being talked about there. The treasures of wickedness, right? Earlier we talked at the beginning of Proverbs about advice to the son about not throwing in with the gang that's going to rob people and share a common purse and have the affliction of the weak be your means for gain. The same thing beyond physical violence be embezzlement, taking that which isn't yours by deceit, or using bullying if you're in a position of power taking the inheritance of the widows and the orphans, right? There is a lot that describes doing righteous judgment, particularly in Psalms, about standing up for the cause of those that are weak, the one who they have a claim for something, but just because they're weak, they tend to be ignored or put down. And that the judges, I was reading about that. It was in Psalms about to do righteous judgment. So the treasures of wickedness. By your wicked conduct, and you have amassed carnal treasures, the end profit of those things is... What's the answer? Nothing. Nothing. All right? There is no lasting profit. There is no lasting gain. But righteousness delivereth from death. All right? Is that being delivered from death? Is that a profit? Yeah. In contrast, that's a pretty significant profit. And so, as opposed to one who is, using violence or intrigue to amass fortune, engaging in righteous conduct, the end result tends to be it delivers your very life from death. What does the life expectancy of a robber or murderer, right? Those tend to be cut short, and so there is lasting profit of righteousness because it spares you from death. Right? Verse 3: the Lord will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but he casteth away the substance of the wicked. Right, so we've got another contrast again. Let's start with the wicked. What does it mean by the Lord is casting away the substance of the wicked? Yeah, the Lord is affirmatively putting them away from them. Whereas he is not permitting the life of the righteous individual to famish, to starve to death. Right? Here's the Lord, I'm never leaving them, forsaking you, care. That same promise does not apply to the wicked. Right? Sometimes the actions of the consequences of their action will come down fully upon their head. In this life or in the end it will. Okay. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. Right? What category would this fall into?
Labor.
Labor. So I put that pointing to the individual's hand, right, Patrick? Mm-hmm. He that dealeth with a slack hand. What does that mean?
Not looking for money.
Lazy. Dealing with the slack hand. All right. If you had somebody go up to the baseball plate, ready to swing their bat, and they've got like 3 fingers on it, it's just okay. They're gonna make any kind of dent in that. Well, that's the idea of how someone approaches labor. The lackadaisical, lollygagging. He becomes poor by his own lack of effort. Right? He is. You okay?
Yes.
Okay. Becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. General truth here, right? If you're not willing to work, there's a consequence for that. Right? Those who work diligently, there's a benefit associated with that. This is not one where this is a hidden, dark saying. But how often is this not applied? And then people get really surprised. Well, I just don't know why I'm in this situation. Right? Same thing for working when there's a time to work. He that gathereth in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causeth shame. Right? There's a time. Right? Harvest time is a busy time. Right? How long is that harvest going to be available, be ripe, not be taken in by the weather? There's a lot of things. If that's the time you choose to take your vacation and sleep late and not show up for work, right? There's a natural consequence for avoiding work when it's time to work. So you've got recognizing timing and applying yourself then. Gathering in summer is a wise son. So I put that in the category of labor of the hand as well. Blessings are upon the head of the just, but violence covereth the mouth of the wicked. Covereth or fills up the mouth of the wicked. All right. This is a different kind of contrast. This one doesn't feel as straightforward to me as diligence versus slack-handed labor. What do you think it means? Blessings are upon the head of the just. Stowed, given, yeah. Who do you think those blessings are given by? God, yeah. Are blessings always in the form of health, wealth, and prosperity? No. Many times they're in something different. But blessings are upon the head of the just. Right? Statement of fact. But your contrast here is violence covereth the mouth of the wicked. Violence fills up the mouth of the wicked. Here I think you've got an expression of the end result there. What tends to follow the speech of the wicked.
Would that be like if someone it didn't go as planned, then you blame their not necessarily violence, but if I didn't get rich, then I find fault in my plans and blame it on someone else. If I didn't get what I deserved.
I don't think that's the idea being expressed here. I think it's more of that we're getting just desserts. That the Lord is putting blessings upon the head of the just, upon the head of His people. But violence is more the just desert of the wicked. Right? It was not only of them speaking violence, but I think this is being done unto them. Does that make sense? Verse 7 talks about the memory of the just is blessed, but the name of the wicked shall rot. So the reputation that we have lingers on for a time. People still know us, and so when the just are remembered, they were a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a good thing. But when you think about someone who is wicked, their name stinks. And that's the idea behind something that's rot. It's putrid. It's smelly. It's gross. We're getting. I guess another way to think about it is a character description by a bunch of different attributes of the just and the wicked, about how they operate, what they do, what will eventually come upon them, and how even after their life is over, they'll be remembered. Okay. The wise in heart will receive commandments, but a prating fool shall fall. All right, a prating fool, one who prates, is the unending stream of questions and retorts. Right? Some folks, you can't teach them anything because they've always got another answer or another question to excuse whatever it is they've done. The difference in these two is receiving commandments. Do you listen to instruction? Do you listen to teaching? Do you listen to this is the way it is and take that in and follow it? Or do you give an endless stream of questions and babblings to confuse the issue and try to justify yourself? That prating fool of falling, that's got the falling imagery of like you're falling in death and battle. Right? If you're having soldiers fighting by sword and you fall over, guess what the next thing that happens is? You die. Right? It's in ruin. So do we take instruction or do we not? Is it hard to be told that what we're doing is not right? Or there's a better way? Is that hard? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah! It is. This is something I think we all can improve on and practice, of being willing to take instruction. But here we're taught. This is a hallmark between wisdom versus foolishness. Is we can't hear truth and learn from it. We're acting foolish. Right? That's not something. And part of this, as we're going through, is we want to check of how do we navigate things. Are we tending towards more a path of wisdom, or are we tending more a path of foolishness? Just because I want to do something doesn't make it wise. Right? Sometimes the thing that I really want to do is the dumbest thing, and it's helpful to put it in terms of, all right, well, here's what Scripture has laid out, and it gives you clarity, because often we can muddy the water. Make sense? All right. He that walketh uprightly walketh surely. All right, so we're talking about feet, we're talking about paths, walking uprightly, righteous, justly, steady. He walketh surely. So one who is walking in the right path, and the manner in which he's walking is upright, it's like he is on that firm foundation. We sing that song this morning. He's got a stable path. He's steady. But he that perverteth his ways shall be known. Right? To pervert your ways means to grow on a crooked course. Right? To perverse, to be distorted, twisted. He shall be known. Well, that distortion shall be known, regardless of whether you're doing it behind closed doors or not. You think it can be covered up. The end result is some men's sins go before, and others are hidden, but they'll follow after. Right? It's not something that will be able to be kept perfectly secret. All right, verse 10. He that winketh with the eye causeth sorrow, but a prating fool shall fall. This one's a little bit different pattern, right? Here we don't have the positive and the negative. We've got the negative and the more negative. He that winketh with the eye causeth sorrow. This means you should never wink at anybody. No. But there's a certain type of individual, generally they're in sales, just schmarmy kind of folk who are all about spinning yarns and castles in the sky. These are the guys who are talking with their fingers and winking and trying to deceive whoever they're talking to buy whatever snake oil they're selling. So the end result of that individual is he causes sorrow. If you've got a young lady who's considering somebody to court or date or marry, and this is who she brings home, hey, red flag. This is going to cause sorrow. But beyond that, worse than that, I'd say, but a prating fool shall fall. Right? The guy who has always got the answer and is arguing, constantly causing strife and division by his unending babbling, always has some smart retort. The end result of him is that he'll be ruined. These are things to avoid. So these are Prating, I think, has really the focus on the mouth. And we've got quite a few, and we'll look at that in a minute, I guess, the contrast of the wisdom with our mouth is it tends to be hush. Think more and speak less. There you go, 11. The mouth of a righteous man is a well of life, but violence covereth the mouth of the wicked. We've got a repetition here, right? Going slow, we can hear this repetition. So what's the contrast with the violence here? The mouth of the righteous is a well of life, right? For whom? Yeah, for himself and others, right? A well of life. Good things are coming out of your mouth that are beneficial, helpful, edifying, unto life, if you will, come out of the mouth of the righteous. But of the wicked man, his mouth is covered with violence. Right. But here you got a little bit different picture, right? A well, you're drawing out good things, right? Beneficial to others. What if you go to a well that's covered over? Doesn't do any good to anybody, right? And in fact, camped on top of that cover is violence. That's a place to flee, right? It's not helpful to you. It's dangerous, right? If you've got what are those little landmines, right? You see a bunch of those around a covered well, is that where you're going to go draw water? No, you avoid it. All right. Same thing about listening to the advice or counsel of the wicked. Hatred stirreth up strifes, but love covereth all sins. I put this in the category. I'd say this goes to the heart of the matter. Right? Our hatred comes from our heart. What is the outward impact of allowing hatred to reign in your life? You are going to stir up strife. Not only is there going to be strife, you are going to be stirring it up. Right? I put you in remembrance, brother, stir up your righteous mind. This is stirring up a different kettle of fish, and it stinks. Right? Whereas love covereth all sins. This is not an admonition for cover-ups or hiding the truth, but this is an opportunity to show grace, show forgiveness, to allow the little petty things that get under our skin and just annoy us to be let go for love's sake. Love covereth all sins, right? It's different motivation, right? The wicked operate from a position of hatred, whereas we, as born-again children of God, whom God loved first, and we love Him, we are known to be His children by the love we have one to another. So, hatred of a brother is the same as murder. And our Master has told us to love one another as He has loved us. Okay? Verse 13, in the lips of him that hath understanding, wisdom is found. But a rod is for the back of him that is void of understanding. Isn't this interesting how most of these turn out to be word pictures? Like you could visualize this. The rod is for the back of him that is void of understanding. Well, the void means you don't have any understanding. What is a rod for?
Right. Discipline.
Well, for children, it's for disciplining. For adults, it's for like caning, like whipping, like corporal civil punishment for the guy who has no understanding because he's broken the law.
But it's all just discipline.
It is, but the degree is much more severe. The rod is for the back of him that is void of understanding. Versus the lips, in the lips of him that hath understanding, wisdom is found. So our contrast there is those with understanding, those without. The one with understanding, you go to the lips and the impact on others, right? There, others are going to find there's wisdom. What he's saying, he has understanding. He is sharing things of value. Whereas you see for the other individual who lacks understanding, he's going to have to be punished by society, right? He's going to be the guy who's going to be tossed in jail because he lacks understanding, because he is breaking the law. Wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the fool is near destruction. Right? I would put this one in the category of the head, because where do you lay up knowledge? You lay it up in your head, right? It's to lay up means to retain, to store, to amass. But the contrast of that is the mouth of the fool is near destruction, near ruin. You ever pop off your mouth and get yourself into hot water really quick? Me too. You too? Okay. What does that have to do with laying up knowledge? Not everything has to be said. Not everything has to be commented on. Time and place and purpose. Having discernment of when and where we react, if we react at all. Sometimes for love's sake, we don't. The mouth of the fool has no such qualms or filters. Right? 15 is interesting. It's a comment on money. And the rich man, his wealth, is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. All right, now, is wealth something to be trusted in? No. And so really this is a danger to both of them. If you've got riches and your wealth is your strong city, if that's what you're depending on for security, you've put yourself in danger. The contrast is that the poor in their poverty, it can be ruinous by allowing that to be the reason to do wrong. Well, I'm poor, and so I'm justified in stealing or lying or cheating. Both of these are two ends of the spectrum of danger based on your relationship to money, the use of that tool, or allowing the lack of it to be an excuse. 16, the labor of righteousness tendeth to life, the fruit of the wicked to sin. So here we've got labor of the righteous. Another thing you can do as you go through this is look at all the synonyms for the one individual. The righteous, the just, the wise, and the other, the wicked, the foolish, the violent. Just seeing all the different descriptions of these two different groups of individuals. The labor of the righteous. So the righteous are laboring, they're working, and it tends to what? Tends to life, right? Good things, right? The labor of the righteous man is not going to prematurely cut somebody's life down so that they can get ahead. Right? It's for their own life and for those around them, right? It's useful to be around a righteous fellow. But the fruit of the wicked, that which is produced and grows out of the wicked man's life, it does not tend to life. It tends to sin, both for them and for those that are around. There's a big pattern in this about being careful with who you associate. Who do you take up with? Who do you become business partners with? Who do you marry? Right? You need to be very careful. He that is in the way of life keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproof erreth. All right? The way of life. When we see the way, I want you to think about paths or roads. Right? If you're walking on the path of life or the road of life, this is a good thing, right? An attribute of one who is walking on that path, looking at your author and finisher of your faith, is that he keepeth instruction. What does it mean to keep instruction? Elliot? To follow. Right? To retain, to understand it, and then comply with it. Right? To hear that instruction. But he that refuseth reproof erreth. Okay, well, what's the difference between instruction and reproof?
Instruction's positive, reproof is negative.
I think they're synonyms.
What it is.
I do. Instruction can be both before you've done wrong or after you've done wrong. It's teaching you the right way. Reproof is generally you've done wrong, but here's the right way. Both you're learning this is the right way. One hears it, applies it, keeps it. The other says, you can't talk to me like that. Only God can judge me. That's a scary thing to say. Because God will judge. I would much rather learn what His Word says right now. To refuse reproof, to be unwilling to hear correction or instruction, is error. Verse 18, he that hideth hatred with lying lips, and he that uttereth a slander, is a fool. Right? You have two attributes of a fool. Both have to do with lips. Hiding hatred with lying lips. What would that look like? I run into so-and-so over here. Oh, it's good to see you. Patting him on his back. Love you so much. And then when he walks off, man, I hate that joker. He is just the worst. Right? You are being deceitful about your true, your hatred. You're hiding it by lying.
Are you being hypocritical?
Oh yeah, hypocritical just means playing a part. You're playing the part of friend. But to hide hatred with lying lips, that's an attribute of being a fool. Right? That is not what we are called to. He that uttereth a slander, right? Uttering a slander. You are saying something, whether you were the originator or not, about somebody else, and you don't know for a fact that it's true, you're in danger of slander. Slander is passing on something that is not true about somebody. Now, that being said, everything you say doesn't need to be shared.
That'd be gossip.
Gossip is a broad category about talking about other people. Slander is a specific kind of gossip where you're talking about them and what you're saying ain't even true. Sometimes you don't need to be talking about the true things that other folks are doing. It's just let those things go. Why? Verse 19. In the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. Well, Don, you want to talk about this one? Brother Don is a man of few words. He tries very hard to apply this one. In the multitude of words there wanteth not sin. It means there's not a lack for sin. If I open my mouth and I just yammer for 45 minutes straight, odds are somewhere in there I'm going to be sinning. But he that refraineth his lips is wise. All right? You cannot take back things that come out of your mouth. But you can keep your mouth closed. The tongue of the just is as choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is little worth. All right? The tongue of the just. Again, our attributes talking about the just, talking about what comes out of his mouth. It says choice silver. All right, this is not your cheap silver you get at Kohl's. This is the good stuff. All right, the best, the premium. Why would that be? Why would the tongue of the just be like choice silver?
Rare.
Yeah, that's interesting. Rare, sought
Sought
after. And all these are descriptions of valuable, right? The things that come out of your mouth should be valuable. They should be tending to life. They should be upright, godly, honest, edifying, right? When you have a just individual who doesn't talk very much, and they start speaking, what do you tend to do? They're listening. They're probably sharing something pretty good. They don't just shout out, It's a kind of a gross description, but I've heard someone say, the concept of verbal diarrhea. It's just flows and flows and flows and flows and flows. Like, that's just right. All right, so the tongue of the just is as choice silver, but then we get a different body part. The heart of the wicked is little worth. All right? And that's a root cause. There's no value there. 21.
What I refer to as rare. It's choice silver. I would think choice silver is
Harder to find, right?
hard to find.
Yeah, most silver is that this would be talking about would be something that would be an alloy or mixed, and you gotta purify it. And this is the real good stuff. Yeah.
Pure gold.
Yeah. 21. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for a want of wisdom. And again, we're talking about the mouth here, but it's also the impact of others, right? With the mouth, the righteous feed many. I tend to not cook meals with my mouth, so we're probably not talking about providing natural food through your mouth, but the benefit of others, right? If you've got skills and wisdom that you're imparting and teaching others, that they are then benefited by and going on and being more capable, functional, successful. I mean, you're pouring into people. We use that expression. We're pouring into someone. What are we pouring in? Are we pouring in good stuff? Good. They do better. They're feeding others, right? What did Jesus tell to Peter? Feed my sheep, right? How is he doing it? He's by teaching the word, right? Feed my sheep. But fools die for want of wisdom, all right? Impact of others, very positive for the righteous by your mouth. Fools on themselves, they die for lack of wisdom. Right? They can't take care of themselves, much less benefit anybody else. Who are you going to be going to for advice? Right? The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. Link that back into the treasures of the wicked, which profit nothing, right? Amassing stuff of this world by corrupt manners and means, there's no profit to it. But when the Lord blesses, right, it makes rich, and it may not be in financial terms, right? Often we're talking about heavenly riches, right? Where your riches are, there's your heart going to be also, right? But the blessings of the Lord, it maketh rich. And he addeth no sorrow to it. With carnal riches, there's always a measure of sorrow. There's always a temptation to sin. There's a temptation to trust it, to be covetous, and to be miserly. But when the blessings are from the Lord, it's pure. There's no sorrow. It's not mixed. There's no alloy. 23. It is as a sport to a fool to do mischief. That sound like a good thing? No. You ever met anybody like that? They just enjoyed causing trouble? Right? It's like a sport to them. Cause mischief. But a man of understanding hath wisdom. A man of understanding possesses wisdom. 24. The fear of the wicked, it shall come upon him. What's going to come upon him? That which he fears, that thing that terrifies him, that worst case scenario, that fear, it'll come upon him. But the desire of the righteous shall be granted. Right? Which would you rather have? The fear be given to you or your desire? Desire sounds a whole lot better to me, right? Well, the righteous are desiring very different things than the wicked. Right? And so you put this into the result bucket, right? The righteous are desiring an inheritance prepared for them. That's what it'll be. That's what will come. Whereas the fear of the wicked, the end result will be the judgment. And it's going to be far worse than they can even fear. As the whirlwind passeth, so is the wicked no more. All right, what's another name for a whirlwind? Tornado. So I put a little clip art there on the tornado there. What happens when the tornado is over? Can you look at that tornado when it's gone? No, it's gone. It's gone. Right? You can see the path of destruction behind it, but you can't look at that tornado once it's gone, right? Well, that's how the wicked are being described. That as the whirlwind passeth, so is the wicked no more. The tornado will end, the storm will end, and it'll be gone. The meek inherit the earth, or the new heaven and the new earth. The wicked will be removed from it. All right? But the righteous is as an everlasting foundation. Sticking with your tornado illustration, what tends to be left on the ground after the tornado blows through and knocks the house down? Foundation, right? That thing which endures. Well, here, your word picture, the wicked are like the tornado. When it's gone, they're gone. But the righteous are like a firm, solid foundation that it endures. Everlasting. Right? As vinegar to the teeth and as smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to them that sent him. Right, again, we're talking about your hand, your diligence, how you're doing something. Anybody just drank some vinegar? What happens to your face? You ever put been sitting around the campfire and the wind blows the smoke right in your face? What happens to your eyes? They're watering, you can't see. All right, put those together. You got just a sharp intake in your teeth and your eyes are watering. Does this sound pleasant? Does this sound nice? You ready to function in this? No. Well, same impact on the guy who sends a sluggard to go deliver a message. So is the sluggard to them that sent him. Deliver a message, or hey, go get me that part. And 8 hours later, they show up with the wrong part. Right? It's, the sluggard here is associated with what? The wise man or the fool? Yeah, the fool. Yeah. What? The sluggard. That's such a great word, and I take it for granted that you know what it means. What's a sluggard? What does it sound like? Sounds like a slug. Do slugs move very fast? No, they take their time. Yeah. Yeah, after I'm done, you can ride my chair. All right. But again, this is something, boys, I'd like you to do over the course of this week, is look at one of these verses and draw a picture of it. Okay? These are very, visual scenes to help you think about that. I bet you could draw that. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to them that sent him.
I could have put just intish.
Intish, well, that's a made-up word. It didn't exist back then. But, all right. The fear of the Lord prolongeth days, but the years of the wicked shall be shortened. All right. Putting that in a category, I put that as kind of the end result. Right? Is your life going to be cut short by foolish and wicked conduct, or by fearing the Lord and heeding His commandments? Will you avoid a lot of those early untimely deaths? The fear of the Lord prolongeth days. The hope of the righteous shall be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked shall perish. Right? The hope and expectation, those are synonymous. So you've got the righteous hoping for something and the wicked expecting something. To one, gladness, joy, rejoicing of the righteous, right? End result, the expectation of the wicked shall perish. They were expecting something good, but it'll come to nothing. Okay? The way of the Lord is strength to the upright. The way of the Lord. Does that mean you can be strengthened by being on the right path? Yeah. If you're walking on the Appalachian Trail, it's pretty well maintained. It's pretty firm. When you get to creeks, there are stones to get across them. There are markings to where you can see which way you can go. If you were to turn off that trail and you just, well, I know a better way, and you start cutting through the brush and the brambles, you're going to be a whole lot more tired sooner faster, because you have decided to go your own way and you know better, and pretty soon you're walking through briars and walking through mud and muck and taking a whole lot more time, effort, and energy not to get to where you want to go. Right? The way of the Lord is strength to the upright. The upright are the ones who are walking on that way. It's strengthening. But destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. The end result of that path? Destruction. Right? Workers of iniquity, it's like taking the path down to the edge of the cliff and just keep on going. The righteous shall never be removed. Are the wicked ever going to finally triumph over the righteous? No. But the wicked shall not inhabit the earth. All right? When Jesus talked about, blessed are the meek and they'll inherit the earth, right? He's not coming up with new doctrine. He's rephrasing principles that are taught throughout Scripture about the Lord, His people, and how they are described as the righteous. Elizabeth. The righteous shall never be removed, but the wicked shall not inhabit the earth. All right, two more. The mouth of the just bringeth forth wisdom, but the froward tongue shall be cut out. What does it mean to have a froward tongue? To be perverse, corrupted, distorted. The mouth of the just brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue to be cut out. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable. Here's a question of discernment. What is acceptable to say? What is right? What is good? What is edifying? What is timely? But the mouth of the wicked speaketh frowardness, speaketh perverseness. All right? Spewing forth that which is not good. If I were to look at the pattern on this sheet, we've got talking about things of the mouth for the wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positives about the wise in their mouth, and then the wicked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, another 9. By far the most frequently mentioned. Anyway.